They come by boat, coach, and wing, monsters wearing the faces of dead men. These are some of the words that I heard every night to ring in the start of play at Convention of Thorns. I got to stay at Klitschkov Castle in Poland for 4 days, along with like 150 other vampire role players and LARPers, and I just had the most fantastic time. So I thought I'd give you an idea of what I got up to, what it was like recreating one of the most important events in Vampire the Masquerade history. I played Andronikos Palaiologos. Just as an overview, I plotted a coup against my prince. My character fell in love. He experienced weird and wonderful experiences of the abyss. He was humiliated in front of a room of people by Hardestat. He was a sheriff for a little bit, but he wasn't very good at it. And just all of these options came my way because I was able to go up to people in and out of character and just know that everyone was very willing to improve each other's experience. A Ventru neonate from the court of Athens, and originally part of the legacy Palaiologos family that ruled the Byzantine Empire. He was a prince. And this was a brief that I got I didn't have a choice. Not I'm saying that was bad, but because I got a very late ticket, like I signed up, I was really hoping like someone would drop out and I would be able to get a ticket. And in the end, they were just like, there's so few characters left. They were just like, here is your guy. Which was actually a really nice way to be introduced because I didn't have to think too hard about what I was doing or why I was doing it. I just got given a big old brief about why this guy was the way he was. Andronikos was a sickly mortal, and when he found his new strength through fortitude and just general vampirism in his second life, he took to any new feeling, expression, and he wanted to explore that. And that was a really nice part of the brief. He took it to some extremes. There was cannibalism. He even took part in hedonistic blood rituals to experience things that he'd never done before, to like feel it in his body. He was cannibalistic. He drank blood infused with the abyss. He tore people's hearts out and replaced them with blood cups. And there were just these really nice kind of trance rituals that he took part in to get that kind of vampiric hedonistic vibe that I was really looking for with this character. It was a lot of fun, and I could feel confident going into these scenes with the other players, knowing that they would bring ideas. And like the cannibalism, that wasn't my idea. I believe her character's name was Francesca, but she brought that idea and it helped inform how I was thinking about the character just in one of those small scenes. It was really cool. So he was religious. He had a lot of internal questions that I got to play out and answer through my game. And obviously there were politics between the emerging Anarch Revolution and the about to be established Camarilla, and especially being a Ventru, I got to sit at the Ventru table with all of these other power players. Like someone was playing Roger de Camden, there was a Hardestat, there were the Duke and Duchess of Amber there, and everyone was so passionate about making these characters come to life and being horrible monsters and being ancient and political. And it was my first ever Nordic LARP. And if you've never encountered Nordic LARPs before, they have a philosophy that is slightly different to a lot of other more traditional American or sometimes even English LARPs, where the concepts are about playing to lose, create as much drama as you can, and very well planned out, and they called it calibrating, calibrated scenes that you engage players with out of character. You pitch them, but they ultimately have decisions over how they act and react to things that you bring to the scene. So if you dominate someone, you can be like, I want you to kneel. Like, even if you can definitely use those powers to overpower them, they get the option to be like, no, because that can give them the space to either make themselves feel safe or up the tension and drama of the scene and do what is most interesting in reaction to your prompts. And I really love doing that. There were so many opportunities. I got beaten up like 5 times. I was in like 5 fights, and I won 2 of them over the course of the entire thing, because like I was a neonate. I was rubbish at fighting. I was a politician, and I was a venture. And also all the other people there were so enthusiastic about giving and receiving like aspects of their game, right? It was not an experience that I expected to be given a lot of plot, which, if you've ever LARPed before, is really hard. I've been to Empire in England, which is a huge LARP, like 3,000 people in a field. Actual plot just doesn't come your way. It just doesn't, because there's so many people and there's so much going on. So you have to go out and you have to find people to role play with, and you have to create your own scenes. But as a first-time LARPer, I found that very difficult. Coming into this, I had lots of opportunities to talk with people out of character and plan these things in advance. So first off, the game itself. Obviously, we all congregated there for the Convention of Thorns to write the rules, the traditions of the Camarilla as it is being formed, in response to young neonates rising up against their princes in diableries, in revolutions, in murders. And in response, the founding members of this convention, like Hardestat, were there to try and get everyone to come together and agree to prevent more bloodshed, destruction of elder vampires, and to build a rule set that was predicated on the idea that we could all agree. We could all come together and stop this revolution, nip it in the bud in a way that meant that the anarchs would be satisfied and could coexist within the Camarilla. And those were a lot of big questions looming over all of our heads. And I tried to kind of wheedle my way in to a lot of these politics. And obviously, Ventru was a clan that wanted to work together to get as many representatives from our clan onto each council of each tradition. So there are, 6 traditions? And there were also councils that wrote those rules. So we've all seen the traditions written in the Vampire the Masquerade book, which is legacy, accounting, destruction, and the masquerade itself. The players on these councils get to decide the wording of each of those rules, which can get extremely political. There were a lot of people pushing for legacy. So basically rules about, like, was Cain the first vampire? Questions that you've got to answer. Who are the clans? Who is part of a bloodline, and what does that mean? Where do vampires come from? There were a lot of people pushing to make the Giovanni, which, because this was the end of the Dark Ages, they were just a family at the time, but they were extremely powerful. They had killed and usurped power from the Cappadocian bloodline, which meant that there was only one Cappadocian left, Decamden, who was very, very adamant in the Ventru meetings, because he joined as a representative of Mithras from Avalon, to to make sure that he was on the Council of Legacy, to like make sure that that rule was written to like exclude the Giovanni and solidify the Cappadocian legacy. And we also obviously wanted to make sure that there were rights written in certain ways that meant that we, the Ventru, could rule justly, but with enough wiggle room to destroy vampires we didn't like or want in our domains. That kind of thing. And as you can tell, it got very political. There were tokens that each player had to vote for who got to go on the council and who got more positions on it. And you could, like, they were just physical tokens. You could trade them away. You could give them to people who wanted to be on one council in exchange for people who wanted to be on another. So you could just do these favors for each other. The Ventru clan, from my perspective, got absolutely fucked over. First thing, the Giovanni sent an assassin after, was it Hardestat? One of the elder vampires, or at least someone to try and cause a ruckus and send a message from the Giovanni. I never figured out what that was about, but we basically disowned them from the off. We made deals with the Semitsi, apparently, because a bunch of us didn't like the Tremere. We tried making deals with the Tremere, and that didn't go quite to plan. And like, eventually we had so many deals with like the Toreadors, and I believe, or was it the Gangrel, like, that just didn't get honored. Which meant like the La Sombra and the Tzimitzi got to absolutely dominate the councils for writing these things. Originally, I turned up and I heard that out of character, 3 of the 4 sheriffs who were supposed to be there and supposed to be keeping the peace weren't at the game. And so the remaining sheriff, who I believe, oh goodness, was she a La Sombra or a Toreador? No. Oh goodness, I can't remember. Maria de something. Damn, I'm so bad at character names. Anyway, she was amazing. She came up to a bunch of different places and was like, "We're looking for sheriffs. Have you got your nominations?" And I already saw that one of the other Ventru got given a sheriff chain because he was given that position by his prince. And I was like, well, if no one else will do it, I'll do it. I put up my hand. I was just like, a title? Yes, please. I'll grab that straight away. And I was just there first. That's literally all that qualified me for this sheriff position. I had a combat score of 1, or was it 2? I think it was 1 or 2. And like people's combat scores went up to like 10. So I wasn't in any rush to start any or break up any fights, but eventually I was interviewed for this position. She was like, "Oh man, we're so stuffed. We need all the help we can get. Fine, you're a sheriff. Just do your job properly and do what I say." I'm like, "Yes, ma'am." I didn't do my job properly, and I sort of did what she said, but I just kind of milled around when there was a problem because I thought it was fun to watch and investigate a couple of things that were going on. But mostly, I used my position to embarrass my rival. Now, if you know anything about Justicars, or the Children of Isaac, Ilika Kairos was one of the first, and she was a player present, and she was also a member of the court of Athens. She was a Bruja who I had a bit of backstory written where we basically butted heads a lot about who was there to do important work in Athens and who the prince would favor between the two of us. And I used my sheriff ability, like title, to just embarrass her. What I did was I didn't realize this at the time, but her brother, her like brotherly character, was dominated or tortured or something, and so he lost his mind. He was wailing and he was calling her name, and he'd been assaulted, so the sheriffs had to investigate, but he was calling her name, and I was like, this is the perfect opportunity. So I stormed into the Bruja the Bruja clan room where she was having a meeting in front of all of the other Bruja, and I was just like, Ilika Kairos, the sheriffs summon you in relation to the investigation of a crime. You are a suspect. And then I saw the player bury her head in her hands. I was like, yes, she's embarrassed. But then all the Bruja looked at me, and I cannot remember his character name, but Matt Stormcrow was at the head of the table. He stood up and was like, the sheriffs can wait. And in that moment, I was like, that's a lot of angry looking Bruja that I've just disturbed. Either I can push this, or I can leave with my head attached to my shoulders. And I was like, okay, job done. Let's go. But there were, I guess, 2 other plot lines that I was really, really excited about. And that was the plot to create a coup against my prince and become Prince of Athens myself. Or maybe Baron, because I was making friends with a lot of anarchs. And also, I was playing Andronikos as an insufferable suck-up and power grabber and very fickle, and everyone figured that out, but we all had a really good time with it, I think. He also fell in love, like I said. It was really, really fun because the two intertwined a little bit. So I'll tell it from the beginning of the coup. Debbie, the community developer for World of Darkness at White Wolf, was playing the prince, another Palaiologos, which I still can't say properly, Irene. She was the prince, she was a Tremere, and she was an elder. But she ended up playing her in a really fascinating way, where she was obsessed with knowledge and books and learning, and not so interested in administration or ruling, which my character saw as an opportunity. I spread the rumor that she was incompetent, and I don't think she was incompetent, but she also wasn't that great of a prince. She was older, she was disinterested, and at one point when Ilika, Kairos, and I were fighting, she scolded us both like children because we were her courtiers, and she was like, well, this is very bad of you. I don't care who started it. I was like, yes, this is so funny. This is perfect. And apparently the rumor eventually spread so far that it got back round to her, and people were like, oh, you're the incompetent Prince of Athens. Which she said was exactly what she wanted. So I was like, okay, good. I've spread the right rumor. From there, I was trying to make friends with a bunch of Venture. I was trying to get into harder stats in a circle, which I sort of managed to do. There was a really incredible scene where everyone had heard the rumor that Hardestat was not Hardestat. He was, in fact, Hardestat's child, transformed to look like him to create the image that Hardestat had never died, to keep his station and his power and his legacy intact, and to try and use this to create the Camarilla. And this secret had been leaked, and there was a scene with a bunch of important elders, which for some reason I got invited to. So I sat there and I was like, okay, cool. My character is just here to grab power. Whatever opportunity. We were conspiring, we were talking, is this important? Like, what does it mean? Is it true? And then he comes in, like, Hardestat and some of his bodyguards storm in and are like, I hear you're having a meeting about us. Why are you chatting shit? And we all were like, oof, okay, well, you better answer these questions. He's like, yeah, it's true. What are you going to do about it? I'm here to make the world better for vampires. And I was like, okay, cool. And I pledged my fealty to Hardestep, like there in the room in front of a bunch of elders. And once that scene was over, I was like, cool. There's two ways this is going to go. I'm going to go sell him out to the Anarchs because I need help with this coup. And I haven't received any from the Camarilla-aligned vampires. Not that I asked for any, but that's really not that relevant. Oh, goodness. Tea break. Oh, dear. So yeah, I sold him out to my fellow Ventru, the Ancilla Prince of Ireland, who was finding out that he agreed quite strongly with a bunch of the Anarchs and was trying to form this alliance. So I was like, here's the secret information. I'll exchange it for some help with this coup. And everyone by this point knew how fickle my character was. And there was Melinda Galbraith, a famous character who I think eventually turns Sabbat in canon, but was there as an Anarch. And we agreed that we would create a pack and instigate a Voldery between the ruling members of Athens to solidify my barony, to solidify my support and power within Athens. And I just had so many incredible kind of back alley discussions with all of the other Ventru Anarchs and the other Anarchs that I would be like talking with to gain this support in an eventual scene. What I was hoping for was a scene where I would kill the Prince of Athens, and it actually worked out really nicely and fit in with the character because he had the opportunity and he let it slip by because he was spending so much time with Elena Vasiliev of Moscow, a harpy toreador that he had met just by chance. He had given every harpy a trivial boon to just sit in on a harpy meeting. He was fascinated about what kind of power and rumors that he could learn about just by sitting in a room with a bunch of harpies, right? And that worked out really well for him. And he ended up talking to her, and they had so much in common. He was learning new things about himself and his newfound strength after being a very sickly mortal that he wanted to explore, and she was trying to use her second life to like rekindle her spark as an artist. And so these characters, we ended up doing really, really gorgeous scenes where, for instance, we danced in the middle of the grand hall with until one of the elders, the Duke of Amber, frenzied and lost himself to the beast and attacked us, and we had to like protect each other until all the other Ventru came to basically murder him, which was a fantastic scene to be a part of, and it just developed in a really fantastic, a really nice way where like we were covered in blood, fake blood at that point. And like there was fighting, and we were like scared, and we were getting thrown about the room by this elder who had like ridiculous amounts of like strength, but also frenzy. It was so much fun to like start off that scene that way, but also then be part of that character's death. But eventually we declared our love for each other, and it was really, really sweet. Andronikos had never been in love before. He had never had the opportunity as a mortal, so this was new and exciting for him. It all came to a head in the very final meeting. At the very end of the game, every clan has to decide whether they agree to the rules as written for these traditions for the Camarilla to be formed. And a lot of clans did not. And at the final scene, the individual vampires have to decide for themselves whether or not they intend on joining the Camarilla. And seeing that Elena would have to go back to Moscow and he would have to go back to Athens to try and take his power and try and be part of the Anarch movement that he'd promised to be. And she was not safe joining the Anarchs. She would have to stay with the Camarilla and find somewhere else to live. And so they had a sad goodbye where he was like, I have to go and join my Anarch allies. And it was a very bittersweet, but I will see you again. It was a very bittersweet ending where I went and I joined the rest of the Anarch Ventrue and I stood with them in the final moments. But when it was called for everyone who wanted to become part of the Anarchs and did not agree to join the Camarilla had to leave to go into another room to be counted, it meant that everyone else went away, and he was like, oh wait, I can't go with you. I can't do this. And so he looked at all the other Ventrue and he was like, I can't join you. And one of them was like, I know, which was very, very nice to have that part of the roleplay moment. But then he walked up to Elena and they locked eyes across the room and he was like, I have to stay with you. And I can't become one of the Anarchs. I have decided that staying with you is more important than my political ambitions. And for once he decided something. And for once he held on to something important and stood by it, which was not how he was the rest of the game. And it was really, really lovely. Hopefully you've enjoyed all these amazing photographs from the event by Retrographica. Is it Retrographica? I will put a link to the Instagram and the Facebook page where you can see a bunch of the other incredible photography. But as you can see, everyone went full tilt with their costumes, with their makeup, and the location was just a gorgeous place and a very immersive place to be. Wonderlarp did a fantastic job of set dressing. There were little electric candles all over the place. It was very dark. We got to play from like 5 p.m. to 3 in the morning most days. And there was an after party at the very end. I just had the most incredible time. So if you're thinking of joining Convention of Thorns, I highly recommend it. And I'm going to be looking for more vampire and Nordic LARPs. So if you're interested in hearing like LARP reports from me, let me know in the comments, or if you're thinking of going to one of these. I'm hopefully next year going to be at Giovanni the Last Supper, which I'm really looking forward to playing gore tricks. And I will definitely recount you with the stories of what happens there as a monster. But thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed. Subscribe if you have. But until next time, don't be a stranger.